Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got a very highly requested combo out here to try, and it's one that I think should give us some pretty decent results if this choke works out the way I'm hoping it does with these shells. At least in thought process, this should be a really nice combination, but we don't know what it's going to do until we try it. So as for the shells I brought out here today, I got out some of these, the Federal Premium copper plated buckshot loads. These ones are the 12 gauge, 3-inch, 41 pellet load of 4-buck, moving about 1100 feet per second. And we have tested these, I think, once before on the channel in this particular variety. And from what I remember, they were pretty solid through a standard factory full choke. So there's definitely a very good potential that we see some even better results through today's combination. And as for that setup we've got to run them through, I brought out the Remington 870 special purpose. It has a 24-inch Carlson's barrel on it. And for a choke, a lot of you guys immediately suggested that we try them through this one. This is the Kicks Buck Kicker full choke. This particular buck kicker measures out right at a 693 constriction. So very common full choke type of range, but this choke has been a very solid performer with the vast majority of buckshot loads that we've run through it. So how can it do with the 41 pellet 4-buck shells? It should give us something decent, so we'll see what happens. But as for today's test, everything is the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards, I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity, and I've got the templates that we can lay up over our target when we go check out our results as well. So let's get you guys a view of that target and take the shot and see just what we can get from the copper plated 41 pellet 4-buck loads through the 870 and buck kicker full. Should look pretty decent, but let's go over here and try it and see what we get. Alright, so that round gave us 1162 through the chronograph. The boss claim is 1100, and we have a 24-inch barrel. So we definitely exceeded what I figured we would see. But 1162 for a 41 pellet load of 4-buck is more than good enough, that's for sure. That is not going to feel very good down range on whatever you're hitting with it. So looking pretty good for velocity up here, especially considering our box claim was 1100. But what kind of a pattern did they give us down there at 40 through that buck kicker? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And I gotta say, it's definitely a pretty interesting result. Now, for reference, the white dot was my point of aim, so we were just a touch low, and the paper is 36 inches wide by about 42 or so tall. And on this piece of paper, we had 35 out of the 41 pellets, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the 6 pellets that were missing were still stuck in the wad, because you can see the straight up slug hole right in the middle of our core there. It legitimately looks like we hit this paper with a slug. So I would guess that those 6 pellets that were missing were still in the wad and potentially even turned around backwards, because it not only punched through the paper, it punched through the pallet board that was behind it as well and buried itself somewhere in the swampy snow behind the target, because I can't find it. So it definitely was carrying some kind of weight with it without a doubt.
And no, the wad you see that just flew out of the back of the target here was not the wad that was in this round. It was another one that was stuck in the back of the target from a previous test. I did look at it, and it was not the one from this shell.
But for what it's worth, the pattern we see here is very nice. Yeah, we definitely have a couple of flyers, that's for sure, especially up here at the top. But that main core area down there, even with the pellet still stuck in the wad, that is a very nice uniform spread of them. So a little bit of a strange result, but still a very good pattern. Now I did measure our farthest 2 points across, including those flyers up at the top there. We're right at 33.5 inches of spread, but you can see we also have 17.25 inches marked there, which that is the spread for the actual core of our pattern there. So 17.25 inches for 80% or so of the pellets, that's not bad whatsoever. It's a nice circular core. There's no big voids in it or strings or anything. It's just that weird little wad with the pellets still stuck in it type of situation, which we have seen before with this buck kicker choke, with 1 or 2 other high pellet count buckshot loads. I think some 27 pellet 4-buck did the same thing, if I'm remembering correctly. So we have seen this exact scenario before with that choke. But for a blank sheet of paper, definitely not bad whatsoever. So let's throw a couple templates up and see what it actually looks like in a more real life scenario. All right, so first up here is our 10-inch circle, and lining it up with where our core actually was, we had 15 pellets within a 10-inch circle, very evenly spread. And of course, right in the middle of it, we had that slug hole of a wad right there, which I think had probably 5 or 6 pellets in it at that point still. But it is a very nice, very uniform spread of them in that 10-inch circle. So looking good there, even though it's only 15 or so out of the 41 pellets. Definitely not bad at all for a 10-inch circle spread. So now let's move over to some actual animal templates and see how this would look if you took it out on a hunt. So here's our deer template, and I did give it the benefit of the doubt and move it down just a little bit since our pattern was a touch low. And yes, I know not everybody uses 4 buck for deer, but this load could absolutely do it without a doubt. That is a very dead deer there. You have the vast majority of your load right through the vitals area. That deer is not going to make it very far, if anywhere at all. So definitely very impressive there, even though we were missing a few pellets that were probably still stuck in that wad. So if you wanted to deer hunt with these shells in that buck kicker choke, it would seem like they are plenty good enough to do it. So now let's swap over to our hog template and we'll take a look at that. I think it's going to be pretty much the same story, but it will give us an idea of how it looks on a little bit smaller of an animal as well. And here's that hog template, and like I suspected, it is pretty well the same story. Absolutely good enough to take a hog with it out to 40 yards without a doubt. And for you predator hunters, a coyote would be just a touch smaller than this hog template, and this combination would be more than good enough for those as well. That's a pattern that you could easily push to 50 and probably even 60 yards on a predator and still have plenty enough pellets where you need them to be at. So overall here for today, very nice pattern. We had a couple of flyers, and we did have that weird pellet stuck in the wad thing, which we could have taken another shot to potentially get a little bit different result. But I still think we saw a clear enough result here with our pattern to where even if those pellets were not stuck in the wad, I think they would be right in there with the rest of them as well. So I don't think it made any kind of drastic difference for today. And we have seen this exact same thing happen with this choke before, so it's not necessarily the most uncommon thing at the end of the day. Either way, I'd say they did pretty well through the buck kicker overall today. Definitely not a ton to complain about other than maybe that wad having pellets in it. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that result right there? That's definitely a very solid pattern without a doubt. You have a little bit over 17-inch spread right there in the middle of the core, and having the majority of your load right through the vitals on any of those animals that we showed is gonna be devastating without a doubt. That is a very usable combination all day long. Do I wish that we didn't have a couple pellets still stuck in that wad? Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal, but I don't really think it's too much of a detriment for today's results. If they weren't stuck in there, I have a feeling that they would all be right in that middle core area with the rest of them. So at the end of the day, I don't think it really affected us too much or made too big of a difference here. But leave all your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the copper-plated 41 pellet loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen out of them? Is that a good enough pattern for you to hunt with? Or are you a little bit concerned about the wad having pellets stuck in it? Or maybe want to see a couple flyers up there at the top tuned in a little bit? And is there another choke or setup combo that you want to see us try with those shells? Let me know all that down in the comments. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.